Welcome back, guys. So, in achieving the dress you saw me wear at the thumbnail, the first thing I did was just take my cup, put on my pattern paper, just like that. Yes. And at the end of where my cup is sitting, that place would be my under bust measurement. So, you can do the same thing. Just take your cup you'll be using for the project, put on your pattern paper, mark that place, and that place is your under bust. Okay, but make sure you leave at least 1.5 or 2 inches on top, so that in case you are constructing the cup, where the cup is going to sit and you want to maybe give a design, you can actually shift. So after rolling through like that, I'm now going to just measure that place as my underbust, as you can see me do in the video tutorials. So you're going to put your tape and measure your underbust measurement on that line that you just rolled. Then you're going to take the rest of your measurements, your half length, your full length. If it's a shirt you're making, just take the other measurement, horizontal measurement, which are your underbust measurement, your half length, and then the length of the dress or the top that you are making. After doing that, just rule as you can see me do right now. So go ahead, take your pen and make sure you label it out so you don't get it all mixed up. Label your underbust, your half length, and the full length of your dress. Also put in your center front. Now when cutting corset, this is one thing that is practically inevitable. That means you have to give marking, because if you are done cutting, you might end up missing everything. I'm just going in there to create my dart line. That's my dart line. I'll go ahead and mark it all straight. I always like cross-checking. So I'm going to be using a pen. I believe we'll be seeing it. Okay. So, and from there, for my underbust measurement, I went in with 1/2 inch at the center front region, and at the side front I went in with 0.8. But do your that's the major thing. Okay, you can use 0.5, 0.5, 1 inch, 1 inch. So this is me just going in there to rule out the line of my dart that I took, and I'm going to connect it like this. Now at the end of the tutorial, you see that I actually had to remove from this particular bodice I and pattern that I cut. But for now, this is what I did, because I was thinking I wanted a very long top, and I had to change my mind after doing this. Okay, but this was what I did. And then the next thing I did was to take my cup. I cross-checked the size at the side, okay, to see if it's really my bust size again, although I know, just checked, and then folded into two to get the middle of my bra cup. So I got the middle and then I marked the middle of it. So that middle point is where I'm going to actually be sitting on the dart mark, the waist dart. That's where it's going to be sitting, like you can see me do. Okay, so just put it there to sit. And the next thing I'm going to be doing is that I am going to be also marking those other two edges. The reason for this is so that I can construct the cup where the bra is going to be sitting. So I'm going to mark that line up also on my bra, and then I'm going to also mark that other part on my bra, although I didn't even use this still, so you can actually skip this step. It's not compulsory, but make sure you mark the middle. That one is very, very compulsory. Now you're going to look carefully what I'm going to be doing right now. I'm going to be shifting the bra cups, okay, because that allowance there, we need to fix it back. So I will take the middle of my bra cup to the side front that line. Can you see that? And from there I will draw my cup where my cup is going to be sitting. Make sure the lines are aligned together. Okay, so gradually just draw a line round your cup, and at the apex, which is at the end of the cup, just draw like an horizontal line there, as you can see. Now the next thing to do is to take that middle line, still take it to the side front, that line mark rather, as you can see, make sure it is aligned with the dart mark, okay, at the side front. And then you are going to draw your cup round to the top and then give it an horizontal line where the cup ended. With doing this, we have successfully added the dart allowance that is at the middle back to the cup, so that if you sew your darts out, okay, with the allowance, your cup will still fit. The next step now is we want to create the allowance for our cup. Now I don't use 1/2 inch. I just measure the allowance that is on the cup like that, as you can see me. It is 1/4 inch, so I'm just going to go ahead now and mark that round my bra cup circumference. I'm just going to mark 1/4 inch round it with my ruler. Mark that round for your cup allowance, okay, so that when you sew, everything is just going to fit in perfectly. So I'm going to take that allowance round. I like using my long ruler because it's kind of easy for me than using the tape on this. So I'm just going to do a sketch round to get that allowance. You can see it's not up to 1/2 inch, okay. So after doing that, I'm just going to connect the line up, as you can see me do like that. It's quite easy, just connect it up like that. I've successfully created a cup for our bra cup. Okay, we successfully created the place that our bra is going to sit. The next thing is to take our measurements, and we're only going to be replacing our dart measurements at the half length, like you can see me do right now. Afterwards, I will take my down measurement and then I'm going to rule it straight, as you can see me do in the video. It is just this straightforward. Rule down all your measurement like this. So if you're still following, please give the video a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed, please make sure you subscribe. You can also leave comments at the comment section below in any area that you are not cleared or you do not understand. I'm just going to add my seam allowance now and just mark it out. So put your seam allowance and mark out your pattern. So the next thing I did was just connect the side and then connect the front like that. I'm just going ahead now to mark out the regions that we are cutting out so that you see it clearly that that is where we are going to be cutting out from our corset with already made cup. So guys, that's that for that. The next thing I'm going to do now is just draw that mark there because I'm going to be constructing the back of my panel there. Now my scissors is needed, so I'm going ahead to cut off the front panel of my dress or my shirt or my corsets. So just go ahead and do your trimming gently. I just recall how I went to Kano, Sabongiri market in Kano, for those of us who are familiar with that area, to go and get these materials I'm using for this tutorial because I can't forget them in the state that I'm living, which is Jigawa state currently. And the cup I was given, the size 32, one was looking bigger than the other. I didn't notice, not until I got home, and even after doing this tutorial, I didn't even notice. But when I was sewing, I noticed that one was bigger than the other. Yeah. So when buying your cup, make sure you cross-check it. Yes. So I am done cutting right now, and make sure you add your seam allowances to your dart region for both the front and the back. Do not forget to have your other 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now I'm going in to cut my back panel, and I'm going to be putting in my measurements, still divided by 4, and also I'll be creating my dart mark. So that's what I'm doing. I'm not adding any zip allowance because the back, I'm going to make it a lace up back, so I'm not adding any seam, any zip allowance. So I went down there to give about 9 inches or so for the depth of my back. You can do whatsoever depth of back that is convenient for you, and you can even put zip at the back. It's not compulsory that it must be lace up. So if you're adding zip, make sure you put your zipper allowance. Then I created my dart 1/2 inch on both sides. This is me taking my full measurement and adding my dart allowances that I took already, and then I'm drawing my straight line to the shoulder of my cloth or the top of my cloth. So now please also make sure you cross check and make sure you label, so that when you are cutting you don't get confused. That line ought not to be there, so I'm just cancelling that, and that's not what I'm cutting. This is the one I am cutting. So the next thing you do now is to cut off your material. If you've done up to this part, congratulations, you're done cutting the front and the back panel of your dress. So this is when I told you that I later removed some inches from the top of my dress. I actually went ahead to remove some inches from it because I decided that I'm not going to do just a top. I wanted it to be a gown. So I decided I'm going to want it to be a gown. So I just removed some inches. That's all. But if you actually did the measurement of what you wanted at the initial, there's no need to do this step. For the tutorial of how I actually achieved my sleeve, I'm going to be leaving the link in the description box below, or you can just check through the channel and you see how I actually achieved the sleeve. It's a different tutorial entirely. If you know you actually enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like, subscribe. Till we see you next time, keep making progress. I love you.